we
all
went ahead.
this stuff up.
Right? What? I mean, come on, man. Look, the reality of the matter, it's just life, right?
Well,
43
yeah.
is not the end of the world. You really need to accept. I understand that
No,
you're like
I
coming to
know, I know.
grasp with the whole,
When I
I'm
saying
like,
when I'm saying wrapping it all up, I don't mean like I'm done living.
but like the like the inclination sounds like you're like it's just downhill
Yeah,
from there.
but I'm just
Like
saying
you've
like
peaked at
I'm
42 and
old.
43 is that slip
Well,
slide
because
into
42 is the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything.
absolutely everybody knows the answer.
From so
Everybody
so once
absolutely.
you hit 42, it's downhill from there.
Well, but I'll say this:
So
when you were a kid, did you ever imagine yourself that you were going to be in your 40s? Like, did that ever even become like to me when I hit 40? It was just
yeah,
like,
it's
oh my
surreal.
god, yeah. It's like I
Yeah.
didn't think I would ever hit that. I thought like for some reason that concept doesn't make
Well,
sense.
and up until I turned 30, I couldn't imagine what it was like being in my 30s. And so now like I still think
Look,
of myself as being in my 30s plus 13,
remember,
right?
it's not 43, it's 34. Just flip the numbers,
Plus
man. You're fine. Plus plus
9.
9 minus the 2 and handshake the other.
I
Yeah.
was trying to do is like, and it's like I keep making the joke is like, well, let me tell you, for my 18th, 25th birthday,
I like that.
is I still feel like a kid, but with additional aches and pains, more psoriasis scarring. It's
Oh
all
my
good.
God, dude.
So
Or waking up in the morning with weird pain that you're like, I don't know what I did. How did I pull this muscle? Like, this just makes no sense.
yeah,
It's a lot of, but you know what? The good thing about it is this. As we get older, tech gets better. So there
that's true.
is a positive to this story.
This is
And with
very
that
true.
being said, I want to say welcome to everybody on this show on this beautiful Thursday afternoon,
Hey,
evening,
hey.
afternoon, or Friday morning, depending where you are in the world,
Yeah.
to this beautiful named podcast, the best of our week, with yours truly, as well as obviously the birthday boy himself, Mr. Juan
Oh,
Carlos Bagnell. You
that's
know,
me.
exactly. And now I feel bad because you didn't tell me last Friday that it was coming on. Like,
I okay, so the thing is I'm always very appreciative of birthday wishes, but I think it's just
yeah.
always been the running theme, and I think some of the people out there who were eldest in the family, like I don't make a big deal out of the birthday. I just really appreciate it when people are like kind enough to wish me a happy birthday. I had like some lovely messages from people on Twitter,
Yeah.
and I logged into my Facebook account for my yearly like, hey
Lucky.
everybody, I love
Facebook says,
y'all. I'm
welcome back
never
and
on
happy birthday.
Facebook.
Yeah, I
And I would love to keep in touch with all of you, but please
okay.
pardon that I'm going to be the cranky text and email guy.
No,
So,
for me, honest to God, I'll be honest with you. The only person I actually talk to on Facebook right now is Adam, Tech Odyssey.
okay, fair.
No. Somehow
Yeah.
of all the communication things, he and I got on Facebook Messenger, and that's literally the only time I ever communicate
Yeah.
with Facebook. But I understand, yeah, no, the family and updating everybody and then just kind of getting into that whole, getting. I just I personally don't like to celebrate my birthday anymore. I actually personally just don't. I like the recognition, the family little quaint things, but I
Sure.
don't do the like, hey, let's go have a party kind of like no.
Yeah.
To me
Well,
it's really more about the kids
and
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 the
and well,
stuff.
yeah, that's sort of exactly what I was gonna say. Is like I've
Yeah.
had a whole new appreciation for my birthday
Hmm.
because my daughter likes to make big deals out of things, and it's
Well, it's like
more.
reliving childhood through your daughter's eyes,
Well,
you know?
like yeah, as philosophically close to immortality as I will likely ever get. It's the passing on of genetic material to my progeny, but it's
Yes.
also like I want to sort of I want to celebrate those ideas of her thinking of other people and how much fun she has, like getting gifts. Like her
Hmm.
present to me was drawing a $30 gift card to our favorite comic book shop so
Nice.
that we could go out together and pick out a graphic novel at our favorite comic book shop. So she
I
she
was
put a
waiting
lot of
for the
effort
part
into
where
that.
oh, so I Omar used to do cute stuff like that too, till it got to the point
Hmm.
where that gift card was for something that he wanted, but it
Yeah.
kind of when it looked like it was for me, so that it ended up being for him, kind of a thing.
Oh,
We
so
do that now.
she's
I'm at
she's
that level now.
7, so she's not selfless. So there was definitely a, oh, I wish I could get this graphic novel, but I'm here for Daddy's birthday. Maybe we bought an extra comic book,
But
not just for me, but
I kind of, in a weird way, I enjoy them. Like, like when he comes up to like,
yeah,
hey, there's this new Dragon Ball figure coming out that you
for
really
sure.
would like. I think it's really nice. I know it's $80, but I think you personally would enjoy having it in your collection. And I'm like, so like, no, no, seriously, like there's a few
Oh,
characters back there from the Dragon
yeah.
Ball superhero movie, Goku,
Hmm.
Vegeta, Piccolo, and I have Gohan, but I don't have Beast Gohan. I just have, regular form Gohan in Piccolo's outfit.
Hmm.
For the first 2 months of having Gohan, he would have basically cameos in my office. He would be
Yeah.
here and then he disappears for a few days, comes back.
Hmm.
And that's how my office is treated. I am more of the keeper of
For sure.
and that's so long story is I'm glad that she was able to, you guys have that little connection,
Yeah.
it's a nice thing. And that's one thing Omar and I do whenever we travel. We always try to find comic book stores and anime shops because it's like our one unified thing. We always love doing, getting things like that. But either way, welcome to the club. I mean, welcome to the. No, yeah, it's like your third year anniversary. Yeah, you still kind of new. It's okay.
You
Enjoy your
know.
40s. Enjoy your early 40s.
I mean, I still feel ancient, if that's any consolation to everybody
No,
else. But
no, no, no.
but
It's
we
cool.
were walking around a comic book shop. She and Marie baked a cake, and she decorated it, and she was very proud of her decorating, and it was a delicious cake. And then
Nice.
we had a really prolonged conversation about the difference between Marvel's Sandman and DC's Sandman. Because she saw this comic and she was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Sandman, Daddy, I like Sandman." And you're like, "How do you know about Sandman?" And I'm now
Spider-Man.
very concerned how my 7-year-old knows about like this
I'm assuming
very
she.
dark.
Well, I mean,
So
yeah,
she
I'm.
means Flint Marko. She means Spider-Man's villain,
Yeah, that's what I
Sandman.
was gonna say.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the book that she was picking up was the DC Sandman, who's like the Lord of Dreams. And it's a very
Oh,
dark
the other
and
Sandman. Yeah,
existential
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm
Sandman.
sorry. The Sandman, not the Sandman. Okay, yeah. No, no,
No,
no. I'm with you.
so I'm in the middle of this comic shop. There are two tables of people like going hardcore on some Magic tournament style gameplay, and I'm trying to explain to a 7-year-old like, oh, oh no, that's not Flint Marko. Put that comic down.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Yes. Dear, it's a few years ahead of you. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It'll be there. Yeah, no, no,
So
I'm
for a
with you.
moment, I looked like the worst dad ever that I'm handing my daughter like a Neil Gaiman
Everybody
book,
turned their head. He's like,
well before she can appreciate what's
"You
going
gave her
on.
Sandman from the DC?" And I'm like,
So
no,
yeah,
no,
I mean, like I was 10 before I tried tackling Douglas Adams. So
some of the
yeah,
okay, not to make this entire episode talk about too much of these, but I will
sure.
say this: our childhood had less parenting, at least for me. I had
Hmm.
less. I was going to say parenting, policing. I would say probably for the
Yeah,
better
oversight. Yeah,
oversight than the way it is now for Omar a little bit. I feel
for
like
sure.
that. Yeah, we were trusted a
Same.
little bit more. Our
Well,
generation.
not even trusted a little bit more. I mean, like we were encouraged to watch stuff. I mean, if you think about what PG films were like in the 80s,
Oh yes,
they
the
are so much darker than PG films or even PG-13 films
yeah, yeah.
today.
Well, and
One of my
didn't even have
all-time
as
favorite
much.
movies
Uh-huh.
was Cloak and Dagger, starring
Oh,
Dabney Coleman. Did you ever
the
watch
original.
Cloak and Dagger?
So I haven't watched the original movie. I watched recently the one on Hulu, but
Oh, you
I
do.
don't. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
completely
That's a different
unrelated.
thing. No, no,
So
absolutely.
Cloak and Dagger from the 80s is a kid who he's got this like imaginary friend who's
Hmm.
also played by the same actor who plays his dad, and he's like this adventure like James Bond kind of character.
Oh, okay.
But he always gets like this like life advice from this imaginary figure who goes off on these crazy adventures. But he finds this Atari cartridge that
Okay.
has top secret weapons information stored in it. And so now there are these Russian spies that are trying to like get this cartridge. And so he goes off on this
Oh,
crazy adventure where he's trying to evade these Russian spies. At one point, because he's friends with like the guy who runs like a Babbage's or one of those like electronics boutique EB
Yeah, and that
stores from the
mustache
80s.
is, man, definitely 80s.
So the friend who I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil a major plot point of this film. You're gonna have to go with me on it. At one point,
Spoilers on a movie from the
the
80s, but please,
Russians
yes.
kill his friend who owns this electronics store, and in capturing the kid, they throw him in the trunk of the car with his dead friend's body in it, while they're trying to figure out how like the top secret weapons information in the Atari cartridge work. And we're like, the stakes are incredibly high. The kid faces regular mortality. One of his school friends gets a bomb put in her backpack, so there's a ticking clock where he has to like solve the problem, where he's actually handling actual firearms to try and like protect his dad, protect his friend, and avenge the death of his friend who owned the electronics store. Like, that was a totally run-of-the-mill 80s film for kids. Like, there was nothing like that
No,
that
nothing's
my
wrong with
daughter
that.
has ever seen.
Not at 7. Yeah, the fact that in the same as actual talking about like dead bodies and stuff like that. That is, I mean, I'll say this: a lot of the stuff I watched back as a kid growing up with, like, the old Jackie Chan movies, the old ninja movies
sure.
and stuff like that. A lot of that, yeah, it was very bloody for.
But I mean, think about like Flight of the Navigator. That is a ghastly story to feed to a kid.
It's a
You're
tough
going to
story.
get pushed forward 10 years into the future, and all of your friends are now going to be way older than you, and you're completely out of,
and your
out of
brother
time.
is physically bigger than you. Like, you're like, the whole aspect ratio kind of going on. No, I actually liked Flight of the Navigator. That was actually a good movie. I remember
Brian
watching.
Glaze.
I made Omar.
Dagger
I made Omar
is-
watch Flight
is
of the Navigator just to
so good.
Yeah, no,
It's so good. So
it is.
I'm trying to share, like, where appropriate, where I feel like she's ready for that kind of stuff. I'm trying to share some of these. Like, so she's seen Last Starfighter. She's seen Flight of the Navigator. We haven't tried Cloak and Dagger yet. Cloak and Dagger is another hill to climb. But, we, as part of my birthday week celebration, we went and caught the new Mutant Mayhem.
Yes,
The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
you mentioned
And
that.
I gotta say, that is one of the sweetest reboots I think I've ever seen.
You like the
movie-
style of animation, the
So
way they went?
I love the production.
Yeah.
The scribble art style really captures some of the feel of the classic Eastman and Laird comics. Because if you remember the original TMNT comics, it was hard ink, black and white.
Exactly.
Like, there was no, and the art style feels messy and scribbled like those old classic comics. But this is also one of the kindest versions of the Turtles. It's a complete total reboot. It has nothing to do with any of the lore that's ever been told. So if you were a fan of the cartoon, or if you were a fan of the comics, or of the movies, this is a completely separate, new origin, new telling of the story, new relationships. Everything's fresh.
Yeah.
They do stuff in this movie that I have never seen another Turtles movie do, and they find some of these really beautiful family moments that I actually found myself getting a little emotional. Like, at the end of every Turtles property, there's still like these lonely kids living in a sewer.
Yeah.
I
mean, essentially, that's what they're known for. But yeah.
Yeah, ninjas, and they're still kind of ostracized. Like, this movie finds ways of solving those problems for the Turtles, and it's lovely. Okay. So I mean, if you go into this like you're a 40-year-old man-child and you can't accept any kind of change, you'll probably hate it. But if you can go in and understand that like this is a fresh retelling in a way that works for a new modern child, like it is absolutely delightful. It really is a romp. So
I'm glad you enjoyed the movie, and I will definitely. I mean, I probably won't go watch it in the theaters. I'll probably end up waiting for it to come out and maybe catch it on whatever network it's on, or even renting. Because I think for me it's it's been some time since I've been actually. I'll take that back. I haven't had any movies lately that have compelled me to go to the theater. Like, there's movies that come out and I'm like, yeah, I'll wait for it to come out on rental. I'm becoming more picky about which ones I go.
Same. Like Mutant Mayhem, because I was raised on the Eastman and Laird comics, I actually didn't like the cartoon because again, with less parental oversight, I was reading the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles run where it is extremely graphically violent.
Oh no, but that's what I'm
It
saying.
is
And even in the movies,
terrifyingly dark.
the conversation, the Shredder, the presidents, how they grew up,
Yeah.
how their master was basically just treating them. There's a whole bunch of different backgrounds and the fights, and of course,
Sure.
there's a lot of reboots, and this is what I felt like. And when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, so this is the latest reboot of the franchise. This is the franchise that never dies, because I remember back when I was 7.
Like
and
about
the
every
Mutant-
8 years, it gets a complete and total
exactly,
overhaul.
exactly,
Yeah.
and we'll get a new version. So I'm glad that it's living up, and it's
I feel like
feeding
this
into
one
those,
is
nostalgic
due a
feelings.
good trilogy. Like, I'll be really surprised if this has legs beyond a part 2 and a part 3. I kind of feel like what they set up, if it's just this one movie, I'm totally satisfied. If they can turn it into more of a franchise, I don't think they can push it far. Like, I don't think this is going to be the 10-year Marvel Cinematic Universe plan of mutants and turtles.
Phase 1, Phase
But
2 of Turtles.
the main reason why we went to go see it in theaters is because Lex really took to Shredder's Revenge.
Yeah.
And so she was into the idea of turtles. We watched the live action film.
Okay.
And she liked that. And so then she was like, well,
the
for
first live
Daddy's-
action or the second one?
the first one. She hasn't
first
seen
one.
part 2 yet. She hasn't seen Secret of the Ooze. So like, there's a moment where they're flipping through radio stations in Mutant Mayhem, and they start playing "Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go," and you're like, "Oh no, Lex doesn't get that reference. It's Vanilla Ice. So darn."
No, but that reference was for you. They're as you said,
exactly.
They were building in things for the young
The fan
generation
service
to
for
enjoy,
40-year-olds.
and they're absolutely
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think those are the movies that do the best. It's the ones that where. Don't take this the wrong way. Obviously, some parents do enjoy watching, TMNT, but not everybody, not every parent does. And throwing things to some of the parents that grew up with the original, or at least saw it at one point, they'll get that and they'll enjoy it a little bit more. So it's like the same story, but to two different people as different. Like she walks out with a different point of view than you do.
Oh, for sure. Well, and the nice thing is like I kind of feel like the movie handed it off. So there was a little fan service for overgrown man babies like me, but it's not for me. The movie is not for me. And that's kind of what I feel is if I want Dark Edgelord, I have Last Ronin to look forward to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really anxious in that because the comics run is really good. I'm really anxious to see what they do with that game because it's supposed to be a God of War, but like from a single turtle, third person action. Like that's my jam. But I don't need all turtles to be that. I need something that's going to be accessible for my kid, which is where I feel like DC Comics has missed the mark on a lot of movies.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of movies featuring these amazing characters that I can show my daughter. Like, kind of get through Wonder Woman. The ending is sort of crap, like I'm not gonna try and sit her through the Flash because it's all like the core of that movie is about like nostalgia for people like me. Definitely not gonna spend a lot of time with the Superman movies. Like that's not hopeful. That's not optimistic for her. So to land Mutant Mayhem came at exactly the right time. I'm a nerd for this stuff. She loved the beat 'em up brawler video game.
Yeah.
Regularly makes fun of Marie because Marie's not very good at it. But then like this movie comes out and it's something that is so much more accessible to her because it's more modern. And me trying to explain like the storylines with Triceratons and Fugitoid and Usagi Yojimbo and like all of these other characters, like that's not going to mean anything to her. It totally doesn't register at all, but now there's something fresh and it felt like the passing of the torch. It felt like something that was built in a really beautiful way to kind of let people my age give something of our childhood to younger kids, but they're just going to take it. This is very different. This is not what I'm familiar with, and it's not for me.
No,
So,
no, I totally agree.
For Steve Pogue, Marie and I did talk about that. For DC live action stuff, Lex might like the Shazam movies the most. We're holding off on the first Shazam film because of the boardroom scene. Every single DC movie does this thing where like the movie itself is mostly fine, and then there's a moment that tonally takes a completely different turn. And again, it's like even with Wonder Woman, we had moments where it's like, oh, this pushes what we're comfortable with for her just a little further than I think she was ready for. It's that to me is like Shazam is 98% perfect for Lex. It is the exact like idea of kids getting superpowers. She would be so into this. She loves Flynn Rider from Tangled, so to hear the voice of Flynn Rider come out of Zachary Levi's face, everything is spot on, except for that one scene we know just gets a little too dark for where she might be.
And you're right.
Now.
You're right. To me, when I think the movie, I always forget about that part because it's not. It's a massive move.
Yeah.
I mean, you think, and it's weird. Yeah, you're right. Introducing certain concepts, it's like
because
one of the
and the
things
movie jumps into that and then it jumps out of it because the ending of the film is not as dark as that boardroom sequence.
No, it's a transformation moment for the it's a tough moment to show and explain
like,
how somebody can kill their father and brother and just
why
because they're not
we
happy
kind
with
of bounced off of Shazam is there were also, I think, the sound effects got a little intense for her with we tried to watch Homecoming, Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
The first of the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, and you're like, the Vulture comes in, and that is a freakish figure for her. And you're like, okay, if she can't handle the Vulture, she can't handle the boardroom sequence in Shazam. So
someday she can. I mean, I'm sure
we're finding those moments where she's kind of cool. Like she liked the first Captain America movie. Red Skull didn't bother her at all. You know, so it's like we're having to be so specific about like where do we test our daughter's tolerance?
what part of the DC universe and the MCU universe she's able to basically navigate through. No, I mean, I get it. You're right. To a certain point, I think even with Omar loving a lot of scary movies now, he's more into that genre.
Mm-hmm.
There are still some movies that we are not 100% like ready
you
to
gotta
show.
and also like, man, kids growing up today, my daughter is going to have to sift through 30 more years of cinema than I had to.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, that's a heady concept to me. Is when I grew up, I was a movie nut. And I went through Grindhouse, I went through classic horror, I went through silent film. And like, just to get my daughter up to speed, there's literally 30 more years of movies than
you should
before
start
she was
booking the
born.
weekends. You should start booking Sundays as cinema night, and from now on, just set up the projector,
All
it
day.
up every day, and then just basically.
Like I strap her in and I do the little eye drops, like from. Like, okay, you can't blink. I'm sorry, kiddo. We got to get through all these movies. You just gotta power through. I'll make sure.
Dad, I got school tomorrow. Like, it's okay. We got to go through one more.
Yes, and you do have school tomorrow. That is tomorrow.
That is
today.
Let's put a pin on that. We'll get back. Yeah, that's a problem for future you, my dear. That is not a problem for you.
Current you.
When I heard that first time ever, somebody telling that is not a problem for you. That's a problem for future you. Let's just deal with right now. Like,
also, future you will be very disappointed in the choices that you're making today.
Yeah, but let's not worry about future you. Deal with future you in the future.
Future you will have to do. That's great.
But with all of obviously a lot of that happening last week, as you guys know, we had so it was Juan's idea that we wanted to try to do another challenge. We talked to you guys about it a couple of weeks ago, and we finally were able to make the time where both of our schedules were able to fit the ability for us to hang out and get a chance to kick back and just just have a nice little chat. And then it actually turned out nice. I really liked the way we ended up doing it. We split it up between the two different types of content between the the X-Reel and the Ro Kids, the glasses versus the actual brains. And for the life of me, it's like I commented on your video. I thought we had a longer bit at the beginning. Like,
we did.
So what did we just forget or were we not? Did it? So what ended up happening? Or did you just?
Oh no, I cut it down. Yeah,
okay, that explains.
Yeah,
okay.
I cut a lot of us sort of reiterating points, and then you're like, you know what? I don't think we need 30 seconds of Juan doing a bad Shaun of the Dead zombie impersonation.
I was proud of my brains, but okay, that's
that's why I cut directly to your growly brains, is because the bit actually started with me like wheezing, and like it takes too long. It took way too long to get into what we were doing, so I got into your growling about 25 seconds faster than what we did when we recorded it. in real time.
I will say that the entire thing felt like it was a 2-minute thing for me. It was so we were engaged, we were talking, we were chatting, we were just having fun talking about this,
Yeah.
tech. And I got a chance to play around with the X-Reel, which is also something very cool.
Yeah.
And hopefully, maybe one day I'll get a chance to play a little more because the brain of it, the beam, is definitely very. It's you're right in the sense of that it to
Sure.
me it feeds into my tech side. I love seeing this type of interfaces and what it can do. But I also do understand where the Rocket Air, the Rocket Station kind of fits much more of a plug and
So
play on the go.
we have part 1 and part 2, and
Yeah.
for anyone who's catching this or listening to the replay,
Yeah.
TK's channel is part 1, where we talk about the differences between the glasses. And
Yeah.
so this is the new Rocket Max and the X-Real Air, formerly the N-Real Air. And then on
Yeah, I
part
kinda
2 of
remember.
that, we talk about the microcomputers that both companies are making. So we originally had talked about trying to do like a four player comparison, because there's the I don't know how you pronounce it. It's like Vertu or something like that. There's the other player that just came out with glasses.
I want
There's
to see. Yeah.
TCL, there's X-Real, and then there's Rokid. And so we were talking, we can collect all of these, but I felt like it was important to focus on the 2 brands we did, because not only are they making glasses, but they're also making these little pocket computers to
It's
power the glasses.
Exactly, augmenting the experience and making it
Yeah.
more accessible. And I think that was the biggest thing for us because one part is, yeah, you're like, well, this thing works great with your phone, or some phones do and some phones don't support it. And then that could be an end all be all conversation. Now, at least the way you're looking at it is your system actually doesn't need to have a video output over USB-C. You could cast your phone directly into it. Or you can plug in a device using USB-C and get that experience on the go, like your PC, or even like like you said yourself, you can using the Rocket station connected over and just using it as an
kinda
interface.
works.
It kind of
Yeah.
works.
So,
So
it was important for us because both parts of this conversation are so alien to people outside of, like, again, we've got about 20 people watching the stream right now. Even for the 20 people in here right now, I would say there's probably better representation for folks who are familiar with VR, AR, mixed reality, stuff like that.
yeah,
But even for that better representation here, I bet most of the people in this chat probably still don't have quite the same experience with some of this stuff. Trying to express what this stuff is like outside of the sort of techiest of the tech community has been an incredible challenge. And I'm literally going like parent by parent at my daughter's school, or family member by family member, and making them put it on. I'm still like kind of nonplussed why there's such resistance when I've had like my Steam Deck and a pair of glasses, and none of the grown-ups want to try it. I still don't understand the like, it's so unfamiliar, they don't even want to see what it kind of looks like.
doesn't like the interface. My wife doesn't like the fact that it's on her face. There's
Yeah.
that
I'll get it.
experience. Yeah, I couldn't explain it. Omar bought into it right away. Omar is
Sure.
like very much an. So when we
Oh,
were going,
let me tell you, this stuff goes over gangbusters with like first graders.
Oh, absolutely.
They freak out.
But the thing about it is, though, is to them it's totally logical. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's like it's a thing, right? Like you didn't imagine it, but then putting it on and using it, you're like, yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Long flights, sitting in and wanting to play by, if we're sitting in the living room and basically, we're using the TV, Omar can just play on the on his glasses. The Red Magic supports it, so he's able to play his games straight off of it. So those are the things that I think the accessibility, the conceptual idea of that this could definitely make my experience better makes more sense to the younger generation. Earlier, like
Yeah.
my wife used to wear glasses and then she stopped because she got the LASIK stuff. And I think there's a certain part of that she doesn't like doing is
Yeah, but that's
wearing
dumb.
it. Yeah, well, I mean, it's also for her the experience of seeing. She said maybe I'll take that back. Maybe she would have had a better experience with the X-Real because it's a little bit more perceptually further.
Yeah.
With the Roke, it felt very
It
close
feels
to her.
closer.
Yeah, and I think to her, she felt like, I don't want my TV here. I want it there. And I'm like,
Sure.
and she
I
was
just
just
think
not
it's-
open to the idea. That's all I'll say.
I just think it's weird, and this is another example that kind of shows to me that I grew up in a very atypical family, where we had ARPANET on an 8088 well before home PCs were commonplace.
Yeah.
And you're like, I was doing DOS prompts to get to my games on 5 1/4 inch floppies, but
Oh my God, yes.
yeah, like we were the only family on our block that was doing stuff like that at the time. So when I point this stuff out to my family, like my sister, she's got a PhD in engineering. My brother, he's got a PhD in engineering. My dad, he's got a PhD in engineering. My mom's a computer scientist. Like, I mention it, and my mom was like, well, put them on my face. I want to see what that looks like. My sister's like, oh, check out these optics. I was working on like lens setups for these like lasers and things. That's really cool that consumers are doing this kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
there's this immediate like attempt at understanding. But then I hang out with like my daughter's friends' parents, and they're like, oh no, that's like no, that's not something for me. And don't you at least want to see what I'm putting on your kid's face? Like, you're not even intellectually curious about what I just did to your kid's brain.
Yeah. Funny,
I don't get that at all.
I will give my wife at least the experience. She did try them on to get she saw what it was, but I feel like in a weird way.
But there was like a moment of resistance, wasn't there? Like,
yeah, it was
why
like,
would
no,
you?
it's okay.
It's like, you're right. It's okay. It's okay that you put this on. You're right. You're going to put this on your face.
For me, it was more about when the reason why I even kind of proposed it is so as we were getting ready to go to Korea, I was starting to pack up different things. So I have 3 pairs of glasses, right? I have the Roku Air, Roku Max, and I have the TCLs. So I had a collection of glasses. Omar went straight for the Air. He's been enjoying them ever since we've had them, and then she wasn't open to it, so we had them. It was in her backpack for the whole trip. Came back, never used. For me obviously turned mine on and I used them. And I think I mentioned this to you. I also like to edit videos with them when I'm traveling because it makes the 15.6-inch display so much a non-issue for me because of the size of it. So you can edit on the plane, you can edit in the hotel, whatever. And for me, it just made things a lot more functional. But yeah, so I think at some point or another, we'll probably see even more technologies and more improvements. Like we saw the improvements between the X-Real and the Roku.
Yeah, I mean, literally the launch window between the X-Real Air and the Roku. So Roku Air to X-Real Air to Roku Max is an evolutionary leap.
Yeah, for sure.
And from where we were almost 3 years ago now with the original TCL Nextwares, like these products are almost unrecognizable. So like the optics are getting more, are improving and getting more discrete. The capabilities are getting better. The refresh rate, now we have 120 hertz modes for these glasses. Like everything about these has been, I mean, the increments are still pretty large because these companies are learning a lot. And with each iteration, you can see that improvement. But now we're definitely cresting that peak where what you feed the glasses matters. So we need a solution for content, and we need a solution for the head tracking and the spatial computing, if that's the phrase we're going to start using for that. So
probably so, but yeah. No,
I'll be really curious though, because with VR, with mixed reality, I still feel like there's this significant consumer barrier. And putting something on someone's face, I have seen so much resistance to the idea of face computing. Like headphones, not a problem. Wearables, watches, all this stuff is good. And then I just try and put a heads-up display on someone's face, and it's like, oh, no. And you're like, but that's what's coming. This is the future.
Have you? Well, I mean, no. So the concept, I think, is still new. We don't see it. There was a period of time where I think even on NCIS where they had, I forget the name of the character, their lab tech girl, the goth looking girl.
Yeah.
She was much more forward in there. She would put glasses on, they would pop up displays and all.
Yeah.
But we don't see that as much on TV. Like as a conceptual idea for most people, it's more.
What I think is funny is we've oversold augmented reality.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's
when I did the TCLs, I got comments from people on some of those Nextwear videos with them saying, "Oh, but we know Apple's working on real AR, and so they'll make sleek glasses. This stuff is right around the corner." And I think people actually believe that, like in the next couple years, they'll be interacting with Tony Stark holograms and putting contact lenses in their eyes for full cyborg vision. And
Sign
that's
me up,
not
man.
going to happen.
Oh man, not
It's
a
not
couple of years.
going to be real in the
Not a
next
couple of years.
2 to 3 years. It's not a thing.
I want a personal Jarvis. What's wrong
I
with
do
that?
too. I'm not saying
Okay.
I don't want that. I'm saying it's not going to happen. But
I
I
thought
really
Apple was
feel
going
like
to deliver
we've oversold the science
MCU
fiction
for
of
me.
this.
Oh no, no, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think the fact that we just don't have the the Jetsons lifestyle yet
I
should
know,
have been
right?
our first clue because that's what we grew up with.
Oh.
In the year 2000, we were supposed to have flying cars. I mean, I have the
That fold
electric
up into
car,
briefcases. Yeah.
absolutely,
Man.
and all having that robot maids that basically just talk back with the attitude. You know, like that's what I want.
Oh,
But I
Brian
did.
Glaze, imagine not buying TCL because you waited for Apple. I mean, I've now been pointing this out on videos where people who kept telling me Apple was going to do AR right, like they expected it to be a pair of sunglasses, like Ray-Bans that did full
Everybody exactly.
environmentally aware AR. And you're like, that was never going to happen.
That has a
And
battery
what
that will last
Apple,
you all day
yeah,
and project and
right?
yeah, no,
Yeah,
no.
that's not a thing. And what Apple actually delivered is not an astounding step above what mixed reality is.
I think
So,
to many aspects, a lot of us obviously we aspire to tech. We want tech to be flashy and sexy.
sure.
Practicality isn't. We're not there in the sense of obviously, you know, if nothing else, just
Oh,
battery capacity.
we're
The
still learning
battery tech.
we're still learning the basics. Yes.
Exactly. The battery tech is still, for the most part, very much is still limiting the factor of everything. Like if we look at just the overall aesthetics of the Rocket classes, the Max versus the X
Sure.
Real, the placement of the hardware in the actual unit made it so that just for X Real to be able to
Has a
remove the heat
biological
element,
difference.
there's a
Yeah.
physical difference between the two because you could see where the battery had to go.
Yep.
Where X Wheel had to put it on the side and Roku could put it in the front, and you feel it in the user experience. So I feel like we all want that experience. We all would love to have those type of contact lenses and all of that experience.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, I want it. We'll never get there if we're still figuring out how to do basic image projection. We are. I want to point this out. This is I believe the Rokid adapter. I think so. The little plug-in adapter.
this
You
is the
got
Roku.
one of these, right? Yeah.
I
So
can
we're
find one
still
too.
working at a level where the limitations of our pocket computers are so significant that we're having to design these elements that plug into things like phones. This phone case is going to block my USB-C port, so I'm going to take that off. So just so that I can properly power the things, we're still figuring this stuff out so that I can plug this in, plug the glasses into one side, plug power into the other. Like, we are taking these incredible baby steps getting this stuff up to speed. Like
in
the
many
notion
ways,
that in 2 years we'll have cyborg vision contact lenses is hilarious.
I will still be throwing my money at it the moment it comes out. So that will be my thing. But
Yes.
we'll hope, you know, and we'll see. We'll actually have to see
When
kind of the. Sorry,
when it comes out, I will, you know, how I said, you know, like I'm
I
you know,
just hope it happens in
43,
my generation. I'll say
and I'm
that.
on the downside.
Yeah, I want to be in that experience. I want to be able to experience
Right.
like the things that we have right now were so far out of my imagination as a child. Not the Jetsons, not the flying car and all of that. I mean, we all saw how progression things kind of went on. But the fact that we have a rectangle, a rectangle that can access not only our personal life, the entire universe of data is built in, not universe, but the entire world data level
Yeah.
is shared through this. The communication is done. It enables me to be able to have communication with, sorry. So concept creator. So just talking to Jermaine while
Sure.
where he is across the world, that's something I did not fathom as a child.
Yeah.
Now this is possible. We are to a certain point appreciating the technology and we see the leaps and bounds, but you're right, we are quite a bit away. But we need to also be realistic when we start aspiring to stuff. We should understand that things are they don't go from, like from this and into an eye directly into your eye socket, or Johnny Mnemonic and building a hard drive in the back of your brain, because
Right.
that's where the hard drive should go if you have a hard drive implant, apparently. But
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, and then there's overheating and there's too much data being going in there, and like, your life is being. Anyways, the it's fun to enjoy it, but I hope at some point or another we'll be able to see that tech miniaturized enough for it to be incorporated into our lifestyle like that. I like
I
that
mean,
idea.
like we touched on some of these experiments with just simple heads-up displays, and
Yeah,
then
I
we
mean,
didn't
Google
learn
Glass
anything from them. But
from
we
like what, like,
didn't learn
oh
anything
no,
from
no,
them.
because if, yeah, it
We
was a,
did Google Glass, and then we're like, oh no, that experiment failed, and then it went on the back burner for years. And then Focals by North came out, and then it kind of went on the back burner for years. And then Google bought Focals by North, and then killed their entire heads-up display glasses division
and we have
after
no
showing
other.
us one of the most amazing concepts for like real-time, eye-level text
Right,
translation,
and,
stuff like
and
that.
they actually stopped them right as they were about to launch the
Yeah.
second generation. It's not like they already had it. It was done. It was just they were starting. I remember talking to their PR, and they're like, yeah, in a couple of months or so, we're starting to look into, like, putting out version 2. And I'm like, okay, great. And then, yeah,
So Michael Peppertech is saying, I'm still trying to figure out what problem these headsets are solving. For me, having to have lenses with my prescription because of my astigmatism sounds very expensive. Michael Peppertech, what is your prescription?
did you
Let,
get
let
it?
me know. So like let's say let's see, left, right. So I do like +9, +6, right astigmatism, left. On like VR Wave, I mean, like, if you have a ridiculously bad prescription, they can be like $200 to get lens inserts, but I still feel like that's not, beyond the pale, considering lens inserts for a Vision Pro will be $400 or $500.
I thought it was
So,
I thought, yeah, it was like, well, I mean, the solution of what these glasses are offering, at least for me, is it's that personal theater experience. If your lifestyle fee if has a certain experience where you are in areas, you're in spaces where
right.
you're sitting there, you're watching movies on your phone. Imagine having that experience augmented with a large TV with you anywhere you go.
So you've got a laptop, and then you pack this on top of it so that you can have two screens,
Yeah,
right? So
I'm not
this
gonna
is a
lie, that's what I
totally
do.
reasonable thing to
Solution.
travel with. This is a portable monitor. That's great. And for just a little bit more than this, I can pack a significantly larger projected display
Hmm.
that then fits in like a shirt pocket. So now this isn't taking up space in my laptop bag. It's a little pair, oh, they're over here. It's a little pair of glasses instead. And the little pair of glasses, just on their own, project a bigger image than what I can do with this. And then if I want to get fancy, I can turn on some of the additional stuff where it pins like a monitor that I can control in space. And so that's the problem that it's solving.
Well, I
It's
feel like
definitely a premium solution to
it
that.
is a premium
It's
solution to what.
cheaper to get this, but I don't want to travel with this anymore.
It depends on, again, it depends on where your needs take you. The displays that Juan was showing, I mean, for me, seriously, I still travel with one. Anytime I travel on my Mac, I have a secondary display that slides out and opens up. It's a 13-inch display, but by comparison, although I'm getting the flexibility of having a second screen, and it is nice and compact and it sits on top of my laptop, it creates a cumbersome experience when you have a simpler solution. I'll say it in that it's definitely a convenience right now. It hasn't
Oh
turned
yeah.
into that whole,
Oh,
this is the standard.
these are absolutely luxury devices. These are, or
Absolutely.
excuse me, I should say they're luxury solutions to the problems that we're describing. So
Oh
it's
no, absolutely.
if you want to go dual display, then it
But
is
remember,
definitely cheaper.
dual display it wasn't always that situation, right? When we first got introduced to dual displays, they were $300 to $400 piece, and they were basically 1080p 60 frames per second resolution displays, and
Right.
the introduction of it was very basic. We now have moved into like something like the Perfect 17-inch display that we have, I'm using right now. Those are
Yeah.
definitely big improvements. Same thinness, HDMI full size, not full, No, it is actually a full-size HDMI. Full-size HDMI input into this, and VESA mounting and a whole bunch of different things. So
Right.
think of this as that luxury experience. It's not for everybody, but once
Oh
you
no, I
use
disagree.
it,
It's for everybody, and if you don't want to do it, then you're a troglodyte, you're a luddite, and I don't understand how you function in modern day society.
it's definitely something that once you start using, you would appreciate very
So,
much, and you could definitely see yourself using it
right,
on the daily. Yeah.
Michael Pepper Tech's follow-up question is yet again, this is a great question to ask because you haven't experienced them. He says, my concern is investing the money in lenses, and then it turns out I don't like the experience or have nausea-induced issues. And you see, this isn't VR. You're not experiencing
A different
virtual
world, a different
worlds
exactly.
that move with your head, and if the latency is off of that movement, then that can induce nausea. I have severe issues with all first-person shooter video games now. I can't play them. I cannot last more than 10 minutes, even playing something like Portal. Like,
But
it
you're
doesn't matter
saying
if
we can play a 10-minute match of COD, though, right? No.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
like, yes, it'll be the least fun and least effective pairing of someone playing COD for 10 minutes, but I'm good for about 10 minutes.
Because season 3, yeah, sorry, they just
No, I
announced
know.
the new one.
Trust me, I know. I know what's going on with Call of Duty. I just can't participate for long enough to get good. There is no presentation or there is no depiction of content using a wearable monitor, a face monitor, where you would exhibit issues with nausea unless you would also exhibit issues with nausea looking at a static monitor. So like if I'm playing a first person shooter on my really nice monitor over here, I'll rolf in about 10 minutes. So if I put the glasses on my face and I play a first person shooter through the glasses, I'll rolf in about 10 minutes. But it's not because of the glasses, it's because of the first person shooterness. So this is again why I keep saying to people like, we're still asking these really fundamental questions. And even for techies who can kind of imagine what we're describing, you have not experienced this until you find an opportunity to strap one of these to your head. Because it is not like any mixed reality headset.
And they're not in stores. That's the other thing.
They're not accessible, but they're not VR.
Yeah.
They're not that. They are a projected monitor out in space in front of you, occupying about 48 degrees of your field of view. And that is so hard to conceptualize. Again, to me, this is like the biggest barrier for these companies is they need to find ways to like put boots on the ground. Like they need to do like a traveling Best Buy tour.
Yeah.
Literally just drive from city to city and set up a little kiosk in a Best Buy. And everyone who comes in, you're like, hey, do you want to try a face computer? And people are like, what does that mean? And then you just shove it on their face and say, hey, look, isn't this cool? And they go, oh yeah, that's pretty neat. And then they get on with their day. That's literally, I think, the only way I can imagine that you will pick up more momentum on this idea. Because even for techies, I get so many questions and so many comments from people who genuinely do not know what this is like. And even my description of it is insufficient to kind of express the pros and cons of what that's like.
Yeah, and they're not all the same exactly. Once you compare the Beam over to the X-Reel, the experience between the Roku Max and the X-Reel changes as dramatically from the sense of how the UI elements, the experience, and what controls your viewing experience changes as well. The biggest thing I'll probably say is you got to try, and if it's hard for you to conceptualize, you have to try it. But again, it's going to have to come up to the point where it becomes available in a store like a Best Buy or a Target or something for people to be able to try. And they're not that hard because you don't really need much other than a video source over USB-C. And it could just show you exactly how nice the images and how much you can make it personal. And I think that's the big factor for me that I like that. It's about having that larger display, but it's still the ability of having that in a personal manner by putting the blackout shades. You block the light from showing anywhere else. You get that more personal, clearer image. The audio can feed through the speakers out of the glasses or through Bluetooth headset or even wired, depending if your phone supports it. So I think yeah, it's really more about if you had to experience it, it's like having that 15-inch display that Juan was showing, except of not physically having that aspect, that actual physical part of it. You just have it virtually in front of you. That's literally the experience. If you held the
Only
display up in
it's
front of you,
also way bigger than 15-inch
no, no,
display in your field of
absolutely.
vision.
But I'm saying is like if you had to conceptualize it in a room, you sitting in a
So
room and you're
to,
like, how do I do
to,
it?
to me, it's like
It's that big.
it's like I'm constantly carrying and walking around with a 70-inch TV viewed from a distance of about 9 feet.
Yeah, which is what you should be
So
sitting at
if you
if you're
can get
watching
on
it.
an airplane with your
Yeah,
70-inch TV and put it like 8 or 9 rows ahead of you and mount it floating in space so that you can perfectly view that 70-inch TV sitting in the most comfortable position you've ever sat on in an airplane, that's kind of what it's like using these glasses. You
I
see
think
how woefully insufficient it is me describing with words what that's like? Because that's nonsensical. It's like I just became a bad Dr. Seuss book. Like it doesn't mean anything until you put them on your face and you give it a try.
absolutely, absolutely.
But Michael Peppertech, one last point, just looking up on VR Wave, they're the brand. They sponsored one of my videos to talk about different types of gaming accessories. Your prescription at VR Wave would be about $100. So for lens inserts on a VR headset, that's pretty good. And so if you ever went like MetaQuest or HTC Vive or one of these like portable face displays, $100 inserts are pretty good. If you tried to do that with Vision Pro, you're likely looking at a $400 to $500 lens insert for Vision Pro.
Well, yeah, but not only that, it's a custom installation of them as well, because it's not something you could just take in and put in and put out. So it makes it to the,
Yep.
at least in the current
Well, that's what
version,
I'm
the way
saying
they're
is
done. Yeah.
the lenses aren't going to be $400 to $500. It's going to be a $400 to $500 increase over the price of Vision Pro to get the installation on that. And Michael Peppertech follows this up with one more great question. What's the main difference between the Roku Air and Max? And TK and I have both done videos with the Roku folks. So I'm going to push pause on our rambling podcasting here to say you'll probably get a more concise explanation of those two products if you catch the videos.
Because because we cover all the different.
Because we had a
points and
script.
different I wish we had a script.
Right now, we're not on a script, so it's not
no.
our best.
But no, thank you. I appreciate the conversation. And then, but I did actually want to talk a little bit about this piece of tech that I know you've been waiting for weeks to talk about.
Yeah.
This is something like so seriously, every time we were starting the show for the last few weeks, Juan's been like, that thing I cannot talk about right now.
I can't talk
about that. So, dude, okay, am I mistaken to say that this is this an upgraded version of something? Because I've seen the form factor before. I can't put my finger on where.
This is my first experience with the company, and the company has just recently rebranded as HoverAir. So I actually kind of have a collector's edition where it has the original Hover branding on it.
And that one was more. It didn't have the folding pair, right? That was more.
No. I think this is the company's second drone, but this is also the company while launching this, they're also rebranding. So if you look for HoverAir, I don't think anything else is ever going to show up in those searches. But the company's original name was Hover, just Hover. So this is an ultra lightweight folding camera drone, which I mean, you can unlock some extra features to like pilot it and navigate it, like a traditional drone. But the main use is AI face tracking. And so this is an idea that is very common for things like gimbals. Like I've got a gimbal that has a little camera module on it so that you can kind of train it to just track your face. And it works okay. This is a little pocket drone with a camera that shoots up to 2.7K at 30 frames per second or 1080p at 60 frames per second. It's got about an 11-minute flight time per battery.
Okay, that's decent.
And it's all AI tracking on the drone. So if you don't want to fly it using your phone as like a remote control, you select a specific camera move at the top of the drone. You put out your hand, you push a button, it does its own moving and flying and tracking. And then when you're done, you hold your hand under the drone and it lands in your hand and you're done. So you could do all of it, almost everything you can do on the drone, you can do without having to turn on your phone app.
Okay, that's good. I like it.
So it's all built in.
And it's the size of a cassette player, a VHS. I'm just kidding. A
Yeah, I mean,
Betamax
you
tape.
fold it flat, and it is about the size. I mean, if you remember a Walkman, it's
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
that, but it weighs about half what a modern smartphone weighs,
Okay.
which is
Well,
impressive for a quadcopter, four prop battery.
and it has
Yeah,
protection for the blades as well in case, God
yeah.
forbid, it does bump against something. You have the built-in cage around it, which is 90% of what the problems are when you're flying things. On the
Oh, yeah. Mine took a dive in the dirt. It's lightweight and
the wind.
it's not cheap, but it handled a crash landing surprisingly well.
The last one I bought, and I think it's sitting up there, is the Mavic Air, the first generation Mavic Air,
Yeah.
the tiny one, the one that we didn't have to register because it was too small and it fit. It actually does kind of fit in your pocket depending on how big the cargo pants that you're wearing. The biggest approach on this one, I feel like it's really nice. How much are they going for right now? Is like three.
So the early bird with like
Yeah.
a double battery,
Hmm.
excuse me, because they sell it just as the drone,
Yeah,
or
of course. The
they
one
sell
with
a
the battery.
kit with an extra battery and a 2 battery charger. And so the full kit, I think, is just under $400.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty nice because if you think
So
about it,
drone, 2 batteries and a charger, and like it's got like a little soft case. I really wish they would make a first party hard case. That I actually had to put into the video. Like the second I took this out in the field, I wanted better protection and a place to store batteries, and like none of that exists. And a soft case isn't going to do anything to
yeah,
help you out with stuff like that.
DTA does nice. They do definitely very nice where they provide those cases or at least accessories that
Yeah.
you're able to pick up if you want to.
So
But a
I'm not
second,
saying it should be as a part of the price. Like that
no, no,
should
no,
be
no.
an extra
Actually,
accessory for sure, for sure,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. And then I think just for anybody that flies drones and for flight time, that is always 90% of the problem when you're flying it. So getting an extra battery is always nice because the moment you start flying a drone and before you get used comfortable with it for like the first 5 6 minutes or so, you realize your time is running out.
Yeah.
The bigger drones may have longer hours, but this one, I think it's feeding into that portability and ease of use. You could just do things with it without having to use your phone. It has the AI functionality built into it, and I think I remember Hover when they first came out. Like this is why I'm like when I saw it originally when you were showing it in the video, because sorry, in the thumbnail it was like, wait a minute, I know this camera. Like, wait, this is just launching? I thought it was already out like years ago. So yeah, no, definitely excited to see that. I think that form factor still existing, and again, just having a very nice and very lightweight and portable. You could just have it in, but you need a better case. You're right.
So
A hard shell case in the
you
backpack.
take it out of the box, and like I unfolded the little prop guards, and we're like, this thing can't be real. It feels like such a toy. I've had remote control helicopters that weighed more than
More
this
than this.
thing did. Like those cheapy plastic ones that just have like the folded plastic nose pieces so that you can replace parts easily. You buy them at the mall, right? There's that weird guy at the mall who's got a kiosk who harasses you with like remote control helicopters. It felt lighter and cheaper than that. And
Yep.
in using it, the footage has been great. The tracking has been surprisingly good. So I've taken it just like I walked it into a sunset where the drone is having to track me and I'm walking into the sunset and it's staying on me perfect. I took it on a bike ride. It's only got a top speed of 12 miles an hour, so it's not easy for me. I mean, it's not difficult for me to completely outpace the
Outpace
drone.
it.
But riding my bike at around 12 miles an hour, light breezy day, it's keeping up with me surprisingly well, and it's tracking me alongside a busy road where there's lots of wind from traffic. So like all of those little instances where I feel like, oh, this is where the manufacturer's claims are going to let me down. It's actually kept up with all of those types of uses. What the company claims the drone can do, the drone can really do. And there's even a little bit of room to try and push it. If you're braver, you don't mind accidentally breaking something, you could probably drive it a little harder than what the manufacturer claims, which is refreshing.
And
They say it's super, super easy. And not only did I teach Lex how to fly the drone in like 2 or 3 launches, she taught one of her friends how to fly the drone with 2 or 3 launches. So if a 7-year-old can teach another 7-year-old how to control the drone, then I believe the company when they say the drone is easy to fly.
That's good. No, no, that is, it's refreshing. Like I said, yeah, kids are sponges, man. They know how to. I
For sure. But
it's
like
fun
for
to
me
see
to
that.
just
But yeah,
literally give it to 2 kids and be like, okay, one of them kind of knows how to use it and the other one doesn't. I just want to see what happens. I did not buy this drone. This is you're gonna work or it's gonna be tragic failure, and I'll be sad. I don't want to break it.
no,
It
no,
is fun, but they were. I mean, like it took the kid like again. It took about 3 launches. And then they were doing like, hey, I want to do a video of me kicking the soccer ball and I'll have the drone follow me. So they push in the follow mode and they set the timer and then they launch the drone and he goes running across this park, kicking a soccer ball, getting chased by this drone. And then my daughter was like, I want to do an orbiting shot. And so she set it for a really far orbit so that it would get like a full, head to toe body shot.
yeah.
Launched the drone and it did exactly what she wanted it to do. Like, the only time we all kind of went was when they did a zoom out and they
Oh,
launched the drone pointing it at a tree. So it flew up and away from you towards this tree and it
it was
was
back.
in the branches, but just by luck, not there's no like hardcore collision detection on this thing, but just by luck, the drone flew up into this little canopy and then flew down, dodging like all of the branches that it would have hit. So I mean, like we were like, oh, this could be where they kill the drone,
That
and
was the
we
nail
just got
biter moment.
lucky.
That because
Yeah,
when you said you handed it to 2 kids and you walked out like, oh, okay, I would probably just have like a small heart attack at that point. Just be no, I mean, I take that back. It's more
yeah.
because they'll be more adventurous than you. You know what I mean? Like it's a different perspective of things. To them,
Oh,
it's
they
a
didn't
cool.
do this like by design either. It was
No, no,
just
I
like
know.
I just want to do a zoom out, and so that's how
And
they just
they
where
didn't
they were, and they
compensate for the
launched
fact
it.
that they're like there's a tree.
They
It's going to back into the
yeah, and
tree.
they weren't looking at all. It was pure carelessness. They're 7.
With the fact that they were able to hang and enjoy and teach each other, I think that's definitely very nice.
Yeah,
It's nice to see that, and I'm glad that you're finally able to talk about it. So definitely make sure to check out that video over on Juan's channel. It was part of the Patreon on a sneak peek early this week, and then it finally became available. So it's
yeah.
definitely nice to see, tech for the outdoors. And I think I personally I'm in the middle of I just got a new bike, a foldable bike. And I think I talked to you about it. That I think I'm just I think from GoTrax. That it's just a fun little thing. I've never had the amount of time it took me to take the bike out of the box and make it ready to go was literally less than 2 minutes, and most
Yeah.
of that was spent opening the box because it's all assembled. There's no tire sitting on the side, and you have to do wrenches and whatever. Everything was ready to go. I had to put the pedals on, and I snapped it on, turned it on, and ready to go. It was just easy to go, and it folds on its own. The form factor is so much smaller. I can actually take it with me when I want to go places, like even in my Tesla. It's That's the
It's
concept that I'm
nice.
excited for. So for sure,
Yeah.
outside, going out and enjoying the weather. If as long as you're staying safe, obviously, we're going through some weird weather for some reason. It looks like we're gonna get some rain later this week, but for me tomorrow, that's literally like the first thing I'm doing. As soon as I drop off of Omar, I'm going to be going riding because we're going through a heat wave, and the earlier I go out, the better the experience is. I don't
Yeah.
want to dry. You don't want to ride a scooter at 110 degrees. It's just not fun. Hot air blowing straight at your face, not a good experience.
Yeah.
As fast as you're going, it still doesn't. But so that's kind of like a little bit of a segue as far as portable tech. I know we talked about the drone. We talked about obviously the glasses. I'm actually going to be dropping a video very soon, but it's about this little phone. I don't think we've
Oh,
talked
interesting.
about. So OnePlus obviously hasn't launched anything in the US recently. This is the Nord 3. This is not a
Oh.
US device. It's it's a weird Nord because it's technically a flagship process. Like the processor in this thing is actually a flagship processor. OnePlus has had the Nord line be for the most part either a mid-ranger or like a 7 series processor, or it's always got, and even with in the US, the Nord, the N10, the N series that we get in the
Yeah.
US are even lower processing power. They're really meant for the bang for the buck. And OnePlus is kind of deviating on the recipe a little bit in a really refreshing way. the really nice thing that I see here that I enjoy about this is they use the same processor that they used on the OnePlus Pad. So it's a tried
Yeah.
and true. It works great, and people obviously have a very good response there. A really nice 50 megapixel primary sensor in there. They didn't skimp on the specs when it came down to the hardware, and I feel like that's where I'm like I feel like this is my flagship Nord. It's starting to be more of a like it's aspiring to be its own flagship now, which is what we see from the full numbering of the Nord. And the first Nord was a 785, and I think the second Nord was a 1300, Dimensity
Yeah.
1300. When they shifted over, and now we have a Dimensity 9000. Yes, 2022 flagship processor, but still a very capable processor in 2023. So very good combination. Higher refresh rate. We go up to 120 hertz on the refresh rate. Large OLED panel, no longer LCD. In display fingerprint sensor. Again, all the things they aspire to be in a full flagship experience.
Yeah.
So I've had an opportunity to play with it. I've been using it for about a couple of weeks now. Even been trying to enjoy just playing games and just racking up some good scores on Call of Duty. That's the thing about enjoying devices. Oh, and it also has the alert slider. That's the other thing that I liked about it. It actually still has the OnePlus alert slider
Nice.
on the back, and it comes in a very nice
Did
case.
the Nord 2 have the alert slider? I don't remember any of the other Nords having the
I
hardware
I,
slider.
I want to. I don't remember if it did, but I do know. Actually, I don't think maybe the first one. Yes, hold on. So OnePlus Nord 2.
But yeah,
Eh,
it is interesting watching them sort of look at. It is kind of interesting watching them use a Nord,
Mm-hmm.
that branding, on a phone that would have been like the numbered OnePlus. Like
Yeah.
what you're describing there is nicer than a OnePlus 9,
In
right?
many ways, yeah, many ways, and I think this is where the experience kind of like it's shifting for us. It's like what we typically expect from Nord, or at least from OnePlus in the Nord series, at least in the U.S. market. This is very different. This is foreign. This is typically what they release in Europe or in India,
Yeah.
the full Nord series. I'm trying to find some images of the side view, the side of the OnePlus
I
Nord.
mean, it's not that critical. It's just it's interesting to me that as hardware goes, that would be an easy one to shave a couple pennies
The
off of
the
the
Nord
manufacturing.
2T did have the slider. So
Did
in
have the slider.
the
Okay.
2T
So
did have the
so
slider. Yeah, it's the
the
first one probably that did.
premium Nords have kept that, where we lost it on one of the OnePlus. We
The
lost it
T
on the
series.
OnePlus 10T.
10T is where it went, and there was the
Yeah.
whole where did it go? What's going on?
Oh,
Everybody,
OnePlus has lost their way and they have betrayed us and no one should ever buy them, and oh, that's the worstest. And then they brought it back for the OnePlus 11
the
and
OnePlus 11 brought it back, but this
no one
this is
seemed to
very
really
refreshing.
care
Well, but
about.
the surprising part is the amazing support for T-Mobile 5G bands here in my area.
Nice.
I was clocking in 1,050 download. I'm like on a non-made for the U.S. market phone
No,
intended
that's
for
good.
Europe. So I was like, crap, this actually works. This is really nice. And they include a really nice case. That's the other thing. Like it's foreign to us, right? We don't include
Hmm.
cases in devices. So this is a
What are you,
nice video.
socialists? Why do you
Go
hate
buy
capitalism?
go buy
You should
your
just
own
go
case.
buy a case and a charger and
Oh my God, where
earbuds.
is? Okay, now
Ugh.
I'm like trying to find
God, I'm gonna throw up in my mouth. Getting stuff for free in the box.
in the
Ugh.
box with the charger. It's an 80-watt
Ugh.
charger in the box that's included as well.
That's insane.
I will say this. It's a little bit more than some of the other Nords in the market before. The price did go up, but you have to factor in the benefits of what you're getting here.
Yeah.
Flagship processor, large 120 hertz OLED panel on a Nord, getting I think it's at 60. Did it come with 16 or 12 gigs of RAM? It comes with 16 gigs of RAM. This is literally matching the 10T's 6 gigs of RAM built in, with the ability of expanding an additional 12 from internal storage if you want to be able to do the page file system.
For sure. I mean, this sounds like a OnePlus 10T with a MediaTek SoC.
This is
It
exactly what.
sounds
Yeah,
like what they've done.
they've hit it. They've hit the nail on this, and they've made it very very nice. I'm downloading an update. There's a new update that literally just got pushed as we were talking at the beginning. It runs at 13 and Occidental OS 13.1. Obviously, all the features, with basically sharing your screen, all the good things of what we have in there. So it's a refreshing look. If you're a OnePlus fan and you want to be able to get something that's not necessarily at the price point of their flagship, which is the 11, I think the Nord 3 it really nails it.
What is that international ballpark price look like?
If I wasn't
is
mistaken, it was like
this-
the 790. If I think I saw it somewhere for. Hold on, let me see here. I don't know exactly how much it was in here.
But is it kind of landing somewhere near OnePlus 11, or is it more like
it is getting
like-
closer to. It is closer to the OnePlus 11.
or is it
600? Oh no, that's the wrong one. OnePlus Nord 3. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong section here. Let's look at the shopping section.
I will also type.
It's about $600. It's about six.
Okay, so depending on region and currency conversion,
and you
it's
can-
maybe $100 cheaper than.
and you can find it a little bit less, like around 450, maybe 500, depending on where you're able to pick it up. It depends on it. OnePlus's region marketing pricing. It's always been different. In India, it's still considered to be a little bit more expensive than their other Nords that they've released before.
I don't know, dude. I can find base model 8 gig, 128 gigabytes of storage imported for $400.
Well, no, absolutely. Again, this is the 16 gig high end. This is fully stacked version of this device. Obviously, there's different version.
And again, this is like you would have to look at what regions and whether or not it has different support for different bands. So this is not like a one size fits all blanket statement here.
No, absolutely.
But it's not hard finding some of these Nords 450. So when we're talking
128
like
for about $400, yeah.
$200 less than a OnePlus 11, and you're only going back one generation in terms of top tier SoC performance, where the Dimensity 9000 was an absolute beast of an SoC.
Absolutely.
It is
Absolutely.
grotesque overkill for phones that are covering the basics. 450 on a sale price is really good. The MSRP is kind of wacky because according to some of these import pricings, like the MSRP should be like $700. So they're trying to make it look like, oh my gosh, you're getting this thing for 50% off. So that's a lie. This is a $400 phone. They're trying to make it sound like it was more expensive. But even Michael Peppertech is saying he can find the international model on Amazon for $550.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I meant, the pricing I was referring to before was the one with the 16 gigs of RAM. And
yeah,
again, there's different levels.
I'm looking at like, again, where you would have to be careful, and I'm assuming that one of the reasons why it's as inexpensive as it is because you're sort of playing in that gray market international version. We don't know what model you're really going to get, but on AliExpress, the prices on these things are ridiculously low. That's Poco territory. That's like high-end Poco F-series pricing, and you'd be going with like a Poco F with a Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2 versus a Dimensity 9000 is a really good fight in that sub $500 territory.
That 7 Plus Gen 2, I really want to see more devices carry that. We haven't heard much about it.
I have to believe that it's a little pricey.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we've also seen MediaTek make some inroads is TSMC's chip fab is at capacity. Apple bought up all of the next generation. MediaTek caught some of that manufacturing capacity. Qualcomm might have to go back to Samsung next year for some of their high-end 8 series chips. Like, this next year is going to get real weird. And so something like the 7 Plus Gen 2 is probably in that Venn diagram overlap of not as expensive as an 8 Gen 2, but more expensive than a Dimensity 9000. And the Dimensity 9000 is probably outperforming it.
No, but
by enough that you would say.
Yeah, no. And I think that's the game, not to say the game, but that's the lines that the OEMs are having to navigate through right now to figure out exactly how to make this device, because this is the year where we're seeing a lot more companies going back to 2022's, flagship processors and releasing devices with them.
Yeah.
But this is a continuation. We realize, obviously, it's a software game. At the end of the day, the biggest thing, because there's conversations that I was following also on Twitter where like people are talking about, obviously, Honor just is going to be releasing a brand new foldable. Xiaomi just released a brand new foldable, or announced it earlier this week for the Chinese market, with their new hinge system and all of that. And I feel like to a certain point, hardware is we've reached limitations to certain points of hardware. It's getting better. The bezels are getting different, thinner, more robust, better camera sensors, and so on. Obviously, still limitations in there. But what I was trying to lead to is it's always going to come down back to software now. I think it's software that's driving 90% of our experience. The Dimensity 9000, on paper is a 2022 flagship processor for MediaTek. But had we just skipped that conversation entirely to somebody that is not a techie, like our fans or everybody hanging out with us this evening, I don't think they would care. I think they would end up basically saying, I think this device is fast, it's responsive, it has the features that I'm looking for, the camera app is nice, the picture quality is really nice, and I can do everything I want with it, and it supports my bands.
My soapboxing is all of these techies out here talking about what about the average consumers, and you're like, we have still not maxed out the compute power of a Snapdragon 855.
No.
There are not experiences that your daily driver smartphone consumer would miss out on with that level of compute power. So we're increasingly selling people on more and more and more powerful pocket computers, while trying to impress them that they're more powerful, still selling them the same experiences that they've been doing for the last 4 years. And the only reason why it was kind of dicey in Android land for a couple of years was because of Samsung's chip fab on the 888 and the 8 Gen 1. Yeah. But you could go back 4 generations of premium tier SoC, and someone who's like really using this as a communications device, a little like gaming, streaming some video, watching some TikToks, would not, their experience would not be hampered in the slightest. No. And so that to me is like, I don't know how to express this to people. The theme for this entire podcast is, how do I talk to normies and get them up to speed? Because you've got people out there that are buying Corvettes when they need to buy Corollas.
For what they need. Yeah, they're overpaying for the hardware and
they'll never realize. So I love it when people say, it's like, well, I had to buy this so that like future software. What future software is going to, I mean, if I go back to some of my phones over here with like Snapdragon 820s, I still have a reasonable experience today. What's holding me back are some of those like the better software patches, security patches, and if I had really been using that phone for all that time, the battery would be a massive hurdle to overcome. The battery would have degraded on me. That's where the performance hit would have come from. The software isn't so heavy today that I couldn't use a Snapdragon 820. The problem would have been the battery.
More than likely, though, that Snapdragon 820 processor device, or device that runs that, probably had a replaceable battery, which we could just totally fix that problem for you. But that was a different time, back in the olden days.
I don't know. I mean, like, I kind of want to reach over. I know it's not charged, but like, I have my LG V20, and you're like, should I? Nah, it's okay. Not on this podcast. Maybe for a future podcast, I'll bring that out.
Maybe like, an episode on SGCQA on Monday.
But I say things like, the things that I'm doing. When we're done with this show, I'm going to take the audio, and I have a template that I run through on a mobile audio editing app, because it is literally faster for me to get an MP3 popped out of a phone than it is out of my beefy workstation now that I've sent my template. Like, that is the order of magnitude difference in terms of processing power that I prefer. When I'm talking about doing things like 4K video rendering out of LumaFusion, and if people aren't doing that, then I think they'd genuinely be happier shopping mid-rangers. It's not, oh, who even needs that much power? No. What I'm saying is, you got a sports car turbocharged V8, and then you could have gotten better gas mileage. if you had gone to a mid-ranger. You would literally be happier with the less performant chip because of the power savings. You don't need X3 cores firing up to open your Twitter feed. Like,
I need it to open faster, man. I need to be able to get to my X faster.
I don't believe we can measure those differences.
No.
We both played with the new Poco. I mean, like the 7 series chips.
The 7
are
8, okay, the 7
still
Plus
silly
Gen 2,
overkill.
The 7 Plus Gen 2 was a massively surprising experience from a 7 series of what the leap that they went from a 7 Gen 1 to a 7 Gen 2 that's literally rivaling the 8 Gen 1, which is like a weird conversation to say how the 7 series can. But the reality, you're right. If you're looking for a good experience, I mean, this is always what my recommendation is. Like, what do you use your devices? When somebody's like, well, do I need this? It all depends on what your purpose of usage for this device. If you're planning on using it, you want it to have a long battery. You want to be able to do everything that is recent and everybody says that you're supposed to be able to do, from social media, pictures and all of that. Absolutely. The mid-rangers are where it's at. Or a flagship from a previous year, like what they're doing here with the Nord. And this is the big benefit here. You get the price benefit, the price break. Yeah. This is still a flagship processor. You have the 5,000 milliampere, 80-watt charging. You charge it up like this. This is really where I feel like you were saying before, OnePlus is really blurring the line between what a Nord should be. This is a premium flagship Nord at 2022.
And I just think
flagship.
It's telling. Last year's flagship processor, but not last year's Qualcomm flagship processor, which also means but this is critical right here. Yeah. This also means it was a better price to performance to power ratio.
Yeah.
Also, not getting the Qualcomm modem. Because that was the big hook when we were kind of dealing with the 888 and the 8 Gen 1 was, but radios and like wireless efficiency and the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. And so OnePlus, in weighing all of the pros and cons of these various platforms, SoCs, components, pieces, parts, came down to a decision where even though the gold standard is that Qualcomm radio tech, they have confidence that MediaTek has caught up enough that the price differences, the performance differences, and the battery life benefits weigh in favor of going Dimensity 9000. So that to me is like a really telling moment that overall platform efficiency, that's how bad off we were for those 2 years for the 888 and the 8 Gen 1.
And the other biggest thing that I also want to say, it's a continued generational relationship with MediaTek. Nord has been, for the last couple of generations, has been basically MediaTek processors. Even the ones that we get in the US are all MediaTek processors. So you're seeing the benefit of what MediaTek has done ever since their revolutionary upgrade a few years back, when they jumped into and started to truly compete with Snapdragon at the flagship level, or even at the mid-ranger. I think to a certain point, MediaTek did really nice jumping in with the 1200, the 1000 series, the 8000,
Dimensity
the 9000
1000 was so much better than people ever gave it credit for. It was their best SoC, and I think it was always unfairly compared against Qualcomm's that were really sort of a step above, but also would have been more expensive. I just want to highlight this one comment from Michael Peppertech, because it's something that TK and I have been begging for. I would love for the entire SoC industry to take 1 year off. Michael Peppertech says, I'd say it's more significant that you can get the same power at better efficiency rather than needing more performance out of newer SoCs. 50% of today's processor versus 100% of one from a few years ago. I mean, from your lips to God's ears, TK and I have been begging for that since, I think for me, the major turn was 855 to 865. And that's where we saw these huge graphs like, oh, look at how much more performance. You're going to get a 20% uplift in single core and 15% uplift in multi-core. But then you'd look at the bar graph and you'd see 15% more performance at 20% higher power draw. You're like, that's not the direction we should be going. And I feel like we really ran with that with the 888 and the 8 Gen 1. You would see this incredible graph, and you're like, yeah, these X1 and X2 cores, we can get like a 20% boost to like your single core CPU scores. And you're like, if you kept me at the same performance level as an 865, and you really limited, you throttled the power curve where your graph is showing us, I would so much rather stay at the level of an 865 and get 20% better battery life. And I still feel that way now, but the 8 Gen 2 from TSMC at least brings us back to much more reasonable performance per watt. I mean,
absolutely.
we're talking about, what do you remember what the exact numbers were? Because I'm making this up from my memory, so I'm probably wrong. But I want to say there was a roughly 40% improvement to performance per watt going from 8 Gen 1 to 8 Plus Gen 1.
It was a 35%.
I want to say the chip... It was 35%. It was somewhere. It was close. It was close to 40%.
Okay. My memory serves correctly. Hopefully, that was the main benefit that jumped in. That they said there was performance per power.
But I'm not making that up. It was a significant.
It was a significant.
Okay.
There was a not only an instantaneous tangible gain going from Samsung to TSMC.
Yeah.
And plus, there was a reason why. Also, if you think about it, why if most of the companies that are going with last year's SoC, they're jumping on the Plus. They're not going with the first generation, the 8 Gen 1.
Yeah.
So they're realizing the benefit there. And I think the thing about it is, and there's also some conversations also going on right now, but the next generation, when they go down to 3 nanometer, and how is that going to work, and what challenges they're going to be doing. They're obviously going to be a generational jump. What we're seeing right now is the return into it's a minor spec bump upgrade from last year from the 8 Plus Gen 1. We're not seeing, if you notice, we are not seeing any conversation about an 8 Plus Gen 2. It seems that we're going to be shifting straight into an 8 Gen 3.
8 Gen 3, yeah.
So Qualcomm's summit is going to happen in a couple of months or so we're going to find out, obviously.
And MediaTek too. I don't think we're going to see an extreme difference from Dimensity 9200 to whatever comes next.
It's going to come down to realistically. I think this is just that gradual improvement that we wanted. It's more that power efficiency that we wanted, so that our devices last longer. They have more efficiency, more power to what we need. Maybe improvements on the ISPs, core configurations, and so on. It's going to be this is literally the fine tuning we wanted.
I want to. Because we have no insight. These companies aren't talking to us. I want to put it on the record. I believe MediaTek will likely continue playing CPU and GPU improvements really conservatively, but I bet you they try to make more noise about camera processing, modems, and like your data connectivity, whatever kinds of machine learning AI hardware they put on this.
Dimensity modem, the modem that they're choosing to go with this one on the Nord 3, again, full compatibility with T-Mobile here, and I was getting over 1,000 megabits down. This is not every. I'll say this, and I'm not trying to put anything against it. Same phone. Same company, same OEM for services.
Right.
I was using my Moto. Same spot. I was trying to run my same bench speed test on it. I got about 400. Not to say that it's bad. The 400 is crazy now.
That's good. Yeah.
But I did not cross
it's not
1,000. But it's not 1,000. And I was like,
huh.
I had to. So in my mind, I was thinking, it's like, okay, wait. Maybe it was just a bad time of the day. I got lucky with the first one. The second one, I had to give it a benefit of a doubt. But the reality is, it is super nice to see band compatibility in the US for that price point of a device. The IMX 989 50 megapixel camera sensor on the back, Oxygen OS optimization, processing, everything that we've enjoyed. Obviously, there's no Hasselblad here. They're not going to put the label there. They're not going to pay the fees there.
Yeah.
But for a Nord, and
that's huge.
It's huge. It's literally
huge.
This is the flagship of the Nords. It's like that should be the title of my video. This is the flagship of the Nords. Welcome.
Because don't you find like these words have increasingly less meaning as we try to describe like this is the budget brand from OnePlus, but it's the flagship of the budget brand. Like it's
I know.
So much time trying to come up with the right adjective, but
like, oh my god, yeah.
Incredibly, what I really and people have kind of been mentioning this. I think like Brian Glaze was talking about like these things are proper computers. We just need better accessory support and stuff like that. That
Video.
I just think we're overdue
Yeah.
adding a few of those lifestyle compute features because I have to believe in a lot of the areas where Nord is going to hit hard, you're probably looking at a base of consumers who I think it'll be a statistically significant number of people who the only computer they own is their phone. And I think we're long overdue supporting those kinds of consumers with video output from the USB-C.
We need
Plug it
that,
into your TV at home, add a keyboard and mouse, and now you have a reasonable facsimile of a desktop computer, and your main communications device is going to facilitate that. Since the LG Velvet, we have been long overdue supporting that kind of experience from mid-rangers, and I think it's just the sad part of our industry right now where companies are too anxious about disrupting tablet and laptop and desktop sales.
well,
We should
but
really
but
already
I
be there.
but I also think that a good part of that conversation is also dictated by the way Google's been approaching desktop experience. They have
Sure.
had a desktop inside of Android for many years, but they
Sure.
don't improve it,
But I mean,
and they
like
don't even have
to
video
our
output.
pals at like TCL,
Yeah, yeah.
like the TCL 20 Pro had a limited run for just that model of phone to support the first generation TCL glasses. And TCL, in one generation of phone that was never followed up on or iterated on, had one of the best desktop modes I'd ever used. In its first generation, that TCL 20, if you could get that variant that supported video output, it
Mhm.
had a better desktop mode than LG Screen Plus. And I loved LG Screen Plus. Like,
No, yeah.
so to your point, I mean, like, yes, we can absolutely point to Google in being deficient and not facilitating this expansion because they're likely not wanting to disrupt Chromebook sales
No,
and
absolutely,
they're
yeah.
trying to build out tablets and Android 13 is better for larger screens, blah, 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 blah. But if TCL could give us a limited edition phone that had a brilliant alternative view desktop mode that only worked with their glasses. I mean, like, the resources can't be so extreme that we couldn't do an alternate big view mode, a 16 by 9 aspect ratio second monitor display mode for any mid-ranger out there. You can't tell me that Xiaomi lacks the resources to do this. You can't tell me that BBK, the brands of BBK, lack the resources to do this. It's that they don't have the motivation to do this. And that's where I feel consumers are getting left behind and getting hurt because that is exactly the kind of alternative use for a mid-ranger phone that would significantly help a large bulk of the population out there. As we're trying to talk about like the next billion smartphone consumers on the planet, that's how we're going to start chipping away at those people who are underserved for technology and services. It's by empowering them with those kinds of features.
No, no, absolutely. And I think that's it, it's going to take some time in that aspect. And right now, the conversation, the for the lack of a better term, I mean, a lot of these features are not going to say, I'm not going to say gated, but these are features that now OnePlus arguably says it is a premium experience. It is a pro experience because the 10 Pro is the last one that had video out. The 10T lost it. The 11 doesn't have it, and even the OnePlus Pad doesn't have it. So there is a directed conversation where they're trying to cut price in keeping those features for the premium. But I feel like I'm really hoping the rumors that the Pixel 8 Pro are going to have video out is a true
I hope.
statement. I really hope those rumors
I
are
hope
true
so.
because the and again, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm putting the blame on Google. I'm saying
I
that
am.
essentially is if Google
If Google
conversation,
wants if Google wants to call themselves a market leader, then they should lead. And I just
I think
turned
to a
on
certain
like 5 phones on my desk by saying the G word. Like every podcast I do it again.
well, you got to remember, man, you have
But
to
it's the
say
same thing. Like for every criticism that I would levy at Apple for not actually leading in the market, they're just trying to disrupt their competitors in the market. And that's not the
yeah.
same thing as a market leader. I'm going to throw the same thing. If Google wants to be a market leader and really reach some of these populations, reach some of these communities, and offer up something that differentiates their products from their competitors, these are the kinds of features that would move the needle. Making your phone more like an iPhone by removing headphone jacks and, taking away some of the perks of the Pixel, like unlimited photo storage in the cloud. That's not leading. That is following a competitor, copying parts of their business plan, and making your product less good to encourage other accessory sales. And so,
Exactly.
yes, I'm going to put the blame on Google. They should lead by example.
I
This
want
is
them
one
to lead.
area.
Yeah.
Samsung, Motorola, Honor. They are leading in conversations that empower their users to do more with their phones. And DeX, ready for Magic Desktop, these are critical differentiating features that contribute to a conversation about computing, not just content consumption, not just smartphoning or average consumers. Whether or not you really tap into it, your device can do more. And that's
Can
what you're spending your money on.
and will do more, not just can. It can and will do more.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me that I feel like a lot of people, like even when you're buying these flagship, foldables, the magic devices like the Magic 4, Magic 5,
Yes.
all of these devices are intended to be more. So we'll have. I mean, the thing about it is obviously is we're hoping because the more this becomes available on flagship experiences and becomes more of the standard, the more likely it is it'll trickle down to the 7 series or the mid-rangers, so more people it becomes available for more people. You have to understand kind of like the chain of premium feature to becoming a standard feature, kind of like back in the day when cassette players used to be a premium and CD players were amazing, and now you get none of those.
Yeah.
Now you get a USB port because that's what you get, my friend.
Yeah. I know.
It's an evolutionary thing, and I'm hoping companies start looking, like you said, to try to make ways of becoming more differentiating the experience.
Well, and then also the bummer is it doesn't matter if they do it. It doesn't. What matters is that they do it. They exist in the market having that differentiating feature, and then they tell their potential consumers about it. And that's the last stumbling block. Like, we get to the last year of LG, and these phones do more than current phones today can do, and almost as powerfully as current phones today can do. And no one knew anything about what those phones could do because LG's marketing department was like, 5-10-year-olds at a lemonade stand and an overanxious terrier, and like that's all they could do to market their devices. Like, it doesn't matter if you come out with a better device. It matters that you can tell people that these services and these products do different things.
And showcase those features. Yeah,
I
exactly.
wrote up we talked about it briefly last week, but just going through like the different foldable marketing campaigns. And I wrote this up on the Patreon. You can catch it there. I'll probably publish it sometime next week, but I publish it publicly on somegadgetguy.com. But it was I was just kind of putting my thoughts out there on the Patreon. It's a very raw sort of meandering me kind of talking about my feelings about this stuff. And so far, only Samsung is marketing their foldables with consistent real life depictions of what it's like to use a foldable out in a real place. And I feel like that is such a huge glaring oversight and missed opportunity from all these other manufacturers. Like, all the rest of these foldable commercials are just like disembodied floating devices in nebulous voids opening and closing like slow motion butterflies. And you're like, that tells people nothing at all. It primes their expectations not at all. It grossly underestimates what like the durability conversation might look like. And then there's a Samsung commercial where there's just a woman. She's walking around holding her Fold and like using it closed. And then she sits down and looks at her monitor and opens her Fold to use the inner display. And you're like, in 30 seconds, without spoon feeding the audience, you gave me a perfect representation of what the expected use
a relatable scenario. Exactly.
of that product should be. And you didn't show me the woman running to a bus stop opening her Fold. You showed me a woman sitting down at her desk and then opening her Fold. So without, again, hammering it, without making it look like the device is too fragile to use on the go, you at least set a realistic expectation for what using a Fold should be like. It is not the use the plastic screen while you're out on a technical hike and doing rock climbing. It's I sat down at my desk and now I wanted to use a mini tablet. That to me is perfectly reasonable. And that means Samsung had to put enough money into a marketing campaign to do all the extra work to do things like hire a model and shoot at a location and distribute those videos and like also spending the money on the Join the Flip Side campaign.
Oh yeah,
And all
exactly.
of those are real world usage scenarios of using the Z Flip. And you're like, how has no other company looked at that and said, you know what we need to do? We're going to make our first foldable. We should make a completely CG animated floating phone that flies through a nebulous space, and we won't even have a human hand holding it. And that's going to impress people. Like, how are we 5 years behind Samsung's marketing efforts, and other companies aren't looking at that and saying, well, we could
Just copy
do
that.
something like that and show
And
people using the product.
and I feel like that's going to be the biggest driving thing. And I hope when OnePlus does actually start working into, launches their foldable devices, we heard earlier this year. I
Yeah.
think once that conversation truly starts happening, and I think that's the biggest driving conversation. Moto has the flip. And they've already started showing people using their flip phones in more
So-
manners like that.
Moto gets credit because if you go to the Motorola website, they have static images of using the Razr Plus. They have static images of using the Razr Plus in real places. Like I love the one where it's the woman holding it like camcorder style, and then they do a really cute like tent mode, so they can show you how to prop it up so that you don't scratch parts of it. It's just on the edges. The Moto videos, CG animated nebulous folding devices floating in space with no human interaction, and you're like, we keep missing like the most directly accessible, but that costs money. You got to put the marketing effort in
And
there.
we're still waiting for that second foldable from Moto that we still haven't
Yeah.
we haven't seen. Like we got a chance to hold it, we got a chance to play with it, and in the early hands on for us, and we're like,
So Ghost Starscream like nailed my intense fear of my Pixel Fold. But Juan, nobody should use their foldables outside. You're like, so I'm glad Michael Peppertech is in the chat because last week he hipped me to Eastku, like this clip-on case for my Pixel Fold. This is a $13 case, and this is the best two-panel case I've ever used. All of my two-panel cases for the Duos were hot garbage.
oh, okay. Before I forget,
So bad.
in the TV show, Only Murderers in the Building. I don't know if you got a chance to catch that.
Yeah.
They used the Duo is in there, like in the whole time.
I loved it.
And it was like, oh my god, like seriously. And they have also the Z Flip 2, the Z Flip 4 in a lot of the scenes. So there's a lot of foldables, but the one where I forget the name of the character. Oh my god, what's her name? What's her name? Tina Fey. So Tina Fey's character on the show uses a Duo, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And like my wife obviously has no idea what Tina Fey's holding, and I'm like, to me, it's like that's a Duo.
Yeah, that was a good like cameo. Like for us, it's not a famous person. It's what phone are they using? That's a cameo.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, that was a fun
that's how
one.
you do it. Exactly.
Seeing the Duo pop up, and it's like some prop department just has like a case of old devices just sitting
But
around.
like they show no, but I'll say this: the show, whoever the prop department is, they're actively trying to put foldable devices in that show. Specifically, again, the Duo and the Flip are the Fold was never. I didn't see the Fold at all, and all the other phones are all iPhones for some reason. But like, yeah, those two devices, the two Android devices that I found interesting were the cool ones. The rest were, okay. It's okay. But so kind of like realizing we're getting to the point where it's around that time for us a little bit. Are you still working on something for the end of this week? Any videos you may be dropping? Any maybe
so
embargoed stuff?
So I do have one more embargo actually coming up that I
you go.
I
We'll be
can't
here
talk
on next
about
week.
just
Maybe
yet.
next week.
You know what? It probably won't be next week. Production schedule this whole summer just got weird.
Yeah.
On the Patreon right now, and I don't know if I'll be able to put it out tomorrow, but on the Patreon right now is a very short but targeted look at some of the improvements for Moto Ready 4 now on Android 13, which is hilarious that my Moto Edge Plus from 2022 just got its Android 13 update with Android 14 right around the corner. So Moto, man, you're really on the pulse there. But where desktop modes are often overlooked or afterthoughts, Moto has done a few things here where, again, if you're a fan of DeX, you really want to be paying attention to Moto Ready 4. Because what they
Absolutely.
update and what they improve on, you will want on DeX, and you will not get on DeX unless Moto Ready 4 gets a little attention. And then Samsung goes, oh no, we might have competition, we should do a thing. And then they improve DeX. So be on the lookout for that. It'll either be going up tomorrow or the day after. And then I also have, again, this is early access on the Patreon. I've got a written article coming out comparing the Pixel tablet against the Robo and Kala, the Windows
Oh, okay.
11, Windows
Yeah.
on ARM tablet.
Exactly.
And the conceit is this is a very unfair comparison. The MSRP of the Pixel tablet with 256 gigs of storage is $599. The MSRP of the Robo and Kala is $1,300. So this is not a fair fight. But while I was traveling on that road trip, I took both of the tablets with me because I wanted to show my mom both of them. She's looking to replace her iPad. For a month, they were the same price. They were on
That's
sale
true.
prices. They
The
were the
Robo and
same
Kyla was on
on a
massive, tremendous sale.
stupid sale over
Yeah.
the summer. So I'm not saying this is a fair fight. One is definitely built for something different. But it is an interesting look at the radically, to me, this is interesting, the radically different philosophies of putting an operating system on a screen. It's an all slate type of handheld computing product, and there's so much more that most people could be doing with tablets. And I think both products sort of illustrate in very different ways how to do more things with a screen that you hold. And so that's also going to go early access on the Patreon probably tomorrow morning.
Okay. Okay. That's actually sounds like a good comparison between, because I think it's they're both mobile processors, both are providing us a slightly different experience. Windows on ARM as opposed to Android with Google's new implementation on their
I mean,
tablet
immediately
UI.
you start thinking of like, okay, well, yeah, these are definitely built for different consumers and different experiences, but like also I'm tired of tablet conversations just being like, it feels nice in the hand and the UI is smooth. Like, what are we doing? The
No, no.
Galaxy tabs deserve a conversation about laptop replacement. Like,
I actually
right?
just got, was it a couple of days ago, I got a unit from AT&T sending me over a test unit for about a month. I got the
Yeah.
connected tab S9. So I've got the
Yeah.
S9 Plus, and then of course I still have my own S9 Ultra, but tonight's episode, tonight's podcast was set up. I went in and I set it up while I was waiting for my son to finish his karate class. I was actually on my tablet. It's connected.
Yeah.
It's 5G. Setting it up. Boom, boom, boom. Got everything set up.
Steve Pogue, the tablet comparison's going up tomorrow.
Okay.
Right today in early access is the Moto Ready 4 follow up, but I'm so tired. Pixel tablet came out, and three of the tech podcasts that I subscribe to, but I don't really consistently listen to. It was like I was listening to the exact same podcast three times over. Oh, this material they made the back out of, it's really interesting. It doesn't feel like ceramics, but it's a nano ceramic, and it feels interesting on your fingers. And I think but if it gets too hot, it doesn't feel as good. And it doesn't feel like ceramic. And you're like, but what does it do? Yes, I get it. You hold the tablet. That can't be the only contribution you have to a thing that has a screen and a processor and a graphics chip and RAM and storage and has this huge library of software that you can install on it. Like, what are we like? I have to believe that like most tech reviewers aren't really techies because they keep having those kinds of conversations where it's like, well, you know, most people are going to buy a $600 tablet just to watch some Netflix. So I'm just going to talk about what it's like to hold it. And you're like, it's $600.
I think the focus
Who's spending $600 to do that little?
and the Pixel tablet as well is a very interesting experience when it comes to tablet because it's a transformer. It transforms from a tablet to a smart dock with the experience when you dock it in. So there's many different aspects to it. I think that's the biggest appeal for me when you truly appreciate what it's trying to do. It's not a smart display and it's not a smartphone. It's in between that space. And I feel like even when you start comparing it to, let's say, to a robocall, and I don't want to take anything away from your article, the difference obviously is usability. Windows on ARM is still not. I mean, I'm waiting for Qualcomm at the summit to start talking about Orion. Or talk about again the next generation that they teased us at the end of last year's summit. I think that's going to be hopefully when the conversation starts shifting, where we get better compatibility. But again, we're a few months away from
what TK said, but I wrote 3,100 words on the topic comparing the two. And Ghost Starscream, I hope I will have a run this well, but he says, I can't wait to hear 85-year-old Juan still complaining about techies saying or being idiots. I just, it kills me because like, if you're really that bad at technology and all you can think to do with a tablet is hold it and stream video on it, then you can go and get a $150 tablet and it will do that really well.
Very well.
And I am so tired of hand feel being the topic people spend the most time on with a product that costs $400 or more. And then you start really getting into it, like how unfairly I feel like the Galaxy tabs are represented, because those are legit laptop replacing slates. You could replace a laptop really well with a Tab S9. Like
keyboard attachment, exactly.
What you're talking about on that SoC is roughly in the ballpark of last year's Core i5. Only with like twice the battery life of last year's Core i5.
That is the surprising part with the Tab S9 Plus. The battery life with 5G on it, with the radio modem, has been crazy good. I'm like surprised. This is truly like I don't have that battery anxiety. I'm like, okay, I was sitting in the classroom, I was like working, and I was like, okay, I barely used like 3% in an hour when I was on it the whole hour. Like I was like, okay, this makes sense to me. This was like fully functional, jumping between tabs. I have 4 different programs open. I'm trying to jump in between, and I'm using desktop experiences. That's the biggest thing that I appreciate with tablets. You're right. Even when I'm not even in Dex, I'm able to jump in and I'm using YouTube desktop. The UI doesn't kick me back to the app all the time to try to get me to do things. So, and I think, so this is the biggest
I feel like you just gave us a really good sneak peek on how my article is going to go down tomorrow.
I hope so.
So that's a part of that conversation. I feel like we're simpatico there. Now, so I mean, like Michael Pepper is saying, funnily enough, I use my tablet mostly for content consumption. The idea of basically breaking off my laptop display and holding it closer for viewing media is enjoyable. I don't have a problem with someone using a really expensive tablet to consume media. What I'm saying is a reviewer should hold that tablet up to the standard of its price point. And this, to me, is another example of when you review the tablet, I don't believe for a second, Michael Peppertech, that all you do is watch video on it. When you're reviewing it, I've seen your videos and your reviews and your commentary. You're testing other things on your products to enhance the conversation. If someone wants to go and buy a super nice tablet, I mean, more power to them. I feel the experience is overkill and they're wasting money on that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to yuck someone's yum, though. What I'm saying is I'm listening to produced podcasts, I'm watching videos and reading articles from people who should be able to contribute to a conversation at a higher level of competency than, well, it's so smooth when I navigate the UI on a $600 tablet. That's table stakes. That's like gross bare minimum. So I'm going to shut up now because we eventually have to go to bed.
No, no.
I can get real pissy with this for much longer periods of time.
And hopefully, no, no. I would say we'll continue that conversation. Hopefully, either on the SGGQA or we'll pick it up
Yes.
again next week. For
Yeah.
me, although the video, I'm not 100% done with the Nord 3 video, unfortunately. So more than likely the end of this week, it'll be. I got a chance to get the beta, the One UI 6 beta on my phone on my S23 Ultra. So I'm definitely going to try to put out like a little bit of a commentary and impressions video hopefully this weekend. But the Nord 3 would be kind of the one leading in next week for me. So hopefully by the time we talk next week, both of these videos will be done and we'll be talking
Nice.
about even more, maybe hopefully more exciting stuff. And I may be in a different location next week for our show. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Oh,
Yes,
interesting.
my stint of being back home is at least for not this week, but next week and the week after, might be a little bit perturbed. But yes, it should. Hopefully, yeah.
Just wandering, man. You're just
I
all over the place.
I gotta go check out new places. Yeah, so we'll have to see. But with that being said, I do want to say first and foremost, obviously, thank you for everybody for hanging out with us. Michael Peppertech, everybody, David Burns. I saw Andrew Fat Produce was in the chat with us as well, and of course, with everybody taking their time to enjoy this conversation that we had. And please, if you're listening to this, obviously on the audio podcast later on, there'll be some show notes as well here for you guys to be able to check that out if you want to be part of the replay crew. Make sure to check out Juan on Monday on the SGGQA, and of course, let us know, what your thoughts are, and if there's anything specific that you'd like us to cover, obviously on the next episode, next Thursday, back on our normal schedule back then. So, with that being said, have fun, be safe, and stay safe, and we'll see you guys. Well, let me find my mouse cursor next week
Uh-oh.
on another episode. Bye bye for now.